Jina AI works very simply. You just have a URL, any URL, and then you just put that URL right after this r.jina.ai. And when you do that, it gives you the text of that URL. Let's get this Egyptian pyramids and put it right after the URL and then run this. And we're going to get the entire content of the pyramids entirely clean. It's not even markdown. It's pretty much just text. So this is very useful. It also has a search API, let's just say, I guess, and the only thing that changes is you put an S instead of R. For example, here we can ask when was Jina AI founded, and when we do that, this takes a few seconds more, and then we get 5 URLs that's based on the search result. Then we can actually copy and paste this and give it to a large language model. Now we're going to actually take a look at all the basic functionality and the full functionality with all the options, and also a full chat which utilizes GPT-4 Omni to actually get answers from those URLs and the search results. So it's very simple, right? Just put r.gina.ai in front of any URL and it will return you an LLM friendly text. It also has quite a few options like read or search mode. Like we've seen, you can actually add an API key. This actually you can use without an API key, and they just provide you an API key right at the website without actually having a membership. Anyway, you can return image captions, gather all links in the end. You can actually, from this website, jina.ai/reader, you can turn these on and it will give you the necessary request, and you can convert this to a Python request format and then just use it. For example, here in this case, when we're doing search, we're returning a JSON object. Jina AI has a lot of products. Actually, it's really worth a look, but the one that we'll be talking about is the scraping related, which is the reader. So let's talk more about how we can utilize all this within our Python code. All the code files, the basic Jina, full Jina, and the Jina chat will be available at my Patreon at the architect level. Link will be in the description. The basic Jina is just going to take a URL from you or perform a search for you and save the responses to response.txt or response.json. Full Gina allows you to actually turn on those options that we just looked at, and it automatically generates the headers for you. And then the rest of it is the same, except that we can enable the options. In Gina Chat, we can actually get certain text from certain URLs or perform search and then move immediately to chat with GPT-4 Omni. We can actually add additional URLs or search to actually enhance the content of which the GPT-4 will have access to answer your questions. Let's start with the basic Gina.py. When we run this, it's going to ask us whether we want to read, R for reading, or S for searching. Let's go ahead and select R, and then it's going to ask us to enter a URL to read. Let's pick this Wikipedia article for analytical engine. Oh, and before I move on, I do want to mention that it also reads PDFs as well. So, let's enter it here and then enter, and then it will automatically get the response and write it right here. As you can see in pure text, we have all the text of the analytical engine from the Wikipedia article. Now, if we run this again and actually perform a search, let's say S, and then ask for latest news on NVIDIA, then it is actually, this takes a few more seconds, but then we get a response from 5 URLs, as you can see, with their contents in a JSON format. The full Gina works pretty much the same, but you can actually enter your Gina API key here. The difference between the regular using it without an API key is that it is actually rate limited. As you can see, you can, without the API key, you can do 20 requests per minute, but with an API key, you can do 200 requests per minute. You can also get an additional membership for 1 billion tokens, which is $20. And each API key gives you 1 million tokens. And they keep just providing you with free API keys anyway every time you visit the website. So if you run out of your 1 million tokens, you can come here and grab a new API key. It's really mind-boggling how they're doing this, but it's working anyway. So when we run the full Gina.py, and we get to select, for example, R, And now we can enter a URL. Let's enter analytical engine. Here we can enter our Jina API key or enter the script, and then we are presented with options like image caption, JSON response. Like I said, you can read more about these options in jina.ai/reader. And also there's some simple explanation for it here. You can actually choose those like with comma separated values. Let's choose image caption, for example, and JSON response. And now we just enter. And now we will grab the article and save it to a JSON file, analytical engine. And it also should be providing the image uh, annotations here somewhere. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects as a patron. You will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses, and my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well. Now let's take a look at the Jina chat.py file. You can actually set show options to true if you wanted to see those options, which we have seen in full Jina, or I'm going to set it to false for simplicity purposes. So I can run this script and it's going to ask me R for reading a URL, and S for searching a query, and to start a new conversation, or press enter to chat. If I just enter chat and press enter now, I'm just going to chat with GPT-4 Omni, just without any context. So I'm just going to say R here, and let's again put the analytical engine here, and then enter, so it will read it. Now it has read it. I can actually do R again to add more to it. Let's go ahead and do that. And this time let's pick the Egyptian pyramids and enter that as well. And then it's asking me, do you want to add this to the context or replace it? I'm actually going to append it with A. And then now I can enter and switch to the chat with GPT. See, I just accidentally entered and it's asking, what would you like to know about analytical engine or Egyptian pyramids? Can you please summarize the content you have? And now it should give me a summary of analytical engine content, which we automatically scrape from Wikipedia and the Egyptian pyramids. At this point, once we have our answer, I can actually start a new conversation by saying new, and then I can go back and everything is cleared. I can start from scratch. Or if I'm in a chat, I can say add, and I can come back to this without clearing the messages queue. So I can actually keep adding more URLs or actually perform a search. If you do perform a search, then the 5 URLs will be added to the context, which the Jina returns. And I'm sorry if I said Jira at some points, just Jina AI. And that's about it. So this just actually really simplifies everything. It automatically returns LLM-friendly text from URLs and also performs search for you and returns 5 URLs for a particular search. Let's go ahead and do that actually. Let's do S and enter a search query. What was announced in 2024 Apple WWDC. And now it's performing a search, which takes a few seconds. And then now we have our results. We can say, can you tell me about the announcements from Apple? Let's see if it's actually going to do. Okay, yeah, see, AI features. Apple Intelligence will bring significant AI integration. So macOS Sequoia, iPhone mirroring. So this actually worked out better than I hoped. Siri refresh. Yeah, so this kind of answered it better than I hoped. Just a caveat, these returns are quite hefty. They're pretty long. So as you're chatting with it, do remember that you are actually spending a lot of tokens, especially when you use the search functionality. Please keep that in mind. Like I said, the code files for this will be available at my Patreon for all 3 files. Link will be in the description. Now let's go ahead and review the code. Let's begin with a basic Jina.py. This one just asks the user whether to use R for reading or S for searching a query. If we select R, then it's going to ask for a URL, and then we're going to form a complete URL. As we've seen before, all we really have to do is put that URL right after the r.jina.ai URL, and then we make a request, and then we write the response to response.txt. And we do get the response.text from the response. And if we did select search, again, we let user enter a search query, then we simply input that query right after s.jina.ai. And we do use the JSON option for that, which Jina recommends actually, which makes sense since we're going to get back 5 results. And then we make a request, and then using JSON, we put it into response.json. In full Jina.py, we have a function called getHeaders, and which is going to ask for a Jina API key and then create the proper header for that. And then we will list the options for all the options that Jina has. Please feel free to visit the website that I've shown you to learn more about these. And then we're going to list each one of them to the user and allow user to enter these values as comma separated. And then we are going to recreate the headers based on all of this. And then essentially we're going to ask the user, just as we've done with basic Jina, whether to read a URL or S for searching. And then we are going to replicate the exact same process as we did with basic Jina, but we are going to use the getHeaders function each time. I believe now that I'm thinking about it, getHeaders is not necessary for the search functionality. Perhaps you probably just want to use the JSON mode, but I'll let you decide. I have actually made that decision in Jina chat. So this brings us to the final chat functionality. The requirements for this is OpenAI and term color, just to print colorfully in the terminal. So here we are defining our OpenAI API key. Either get it from environment variables or you can enter it here. We do set the options to false, but if you set it to true, then you will see all these options presented to you along with the API key. Other than that, we initialized an async OpenAI. It didn't really have to be async, but maybe I thought you may want to actually modify this code to suit your own purposes, maybe make multiple calls. So just keep that in mind. I do want to mention one more time that especially search returns a lot of tokens. So if you're persistently chatting with that context, you're going to be expending a lot of tokens, which is going to cost you just in API usage with OpenAI. Just a quick reminder. So we have a function called GPT with streaming. We call GPT-4 with streaming. We process the streaming responses here. And then again, we have the getHeaders function, which takes in the show options, which is by default true. But I've set it in the script as false. And if not show options, then we just return an empty headers. Otherwise, we get API key and then we present the options and allow user to choose as we've done. And we have a function to handle the R mode, which is the read mode, which is going to ask for a URL, just as we've done. Get headers using the get headers function, passing in the show options, whether we want to use the complex options or not. And the rest of it is that we're going to write it to response.txt file. And if this is the first time the script is running, meaning the messages are empty, we're going to create a system message instructing the GPT to please answer the user questions based on all the contents provided, and we will provide an initial content because, as you remember, we can add to this later. Now, this will trigger the first time around, right? Putting the initial content. If we are in the second round or something that you want to add more content, then we are going to ask the user, do you want to add this content? Because we will have retrieved a new URL or performed a new search. Do you want to add this content or replace it? So if you say select A, then we are going to append it to the system message by saying additional content with some new lines and insert the content. If you select R to replace, then we are going to create a whole new messages with the initial system message. Please answer user questions based on all the content, and we're going to provide the initial content. And in the handle S mode, again, we are just taking a user query for search and then performing search and then essentially saving it to response.json file. Again, if this is the first time we perform search, we initialize the system message just exactly the same. Otherwise, we append or replace. We check that and allow user to either place that search with the previous content or append to the content that we already had. And then we do have a new conversation mode, which is handled by this function, which clears the messages. Instead of starting a new conversation, it returns empty messages. Within this chat loop, within a while loop, we take in user input. This happens when the user has entered chat. And if user selects new, then we call the handle new n function and I wait for the main loop to kick in because now we're going to go back to the original options such as enter R for reading URL, S for searching a query. If the user enters add, then we are again going to go back to the main loop with the current messages. Then otherwise, we're just going to append to the messages list, the user input. We're going to make a call and then we're going to append. We're going to make a call to GPT-4 Omni and then we're going to append the system response. And the main loop is going to trigger with a while loop, and it's going to ask for a mode, enter R for reading a URL, S for searching a query, start a new conversation, or press enter to continue chatting. And if it is R, we're going to handle mode R with that function. Otherwise, S, we're going to perform search. If it's N, then if it's N, then we're going to trigger N. Otherwise, if we skip all this by pressing enter, then we are going to enter the chat loop. And that's it. We run the main loop right here and then call it with async IO. I guess we really didn't need async IO, but just remember that because it's all set up for async functionality, you can actually make multiple calls to OpenAI. So this should actually give you some creative use cases. Thank you for watching. I have been building my 1000x Dev Masterclass. Now it has 11 chapters. I do highly recommend it that this out. In this masterclass, I'm sharing everything I learned on how to use AI assistants, particularly Cursor IDE, for coding as effectively as possible to eventually become 1000x coders. Check this out. Link will be in the description. Thank you. This was the end of our video, but I'd like to talk quickly about my AutoStreamer version 3 project. AutoStreamer version 3 is a PyQt powered PyInstaller packaged Python project that I came up with. It uses your OpenAI API key to create course websites such as this one in real time. This is also deployed at Railway and including with audio.
The elif clause. In Python,
so you have quite a lot of choices, such as 6 different voice choices and over 50 languages that you can choose from. You can choose light or dark theme. When you go here to generate courses, you just enter a course that you would like to generate. For example, we just did permaculture basics, and I can pick how many chapters I'd like to generate, and I'm just going to go ahead and generate it real quick. This shouldn't take too long. Our curriculum was created successfully. I can go into view course outline and search for that permaculture. And as I can see, ethics and principles, design methods and tools, and practical applications. I can then actually select this course outline and continue to generate the course rated in light mode, and then the website will launch automatically and will be created for you in real time. And you can record it as I'm doing right now, or actually live stream it. It's really up to you. And once it begins, we'll be able to
Ethics
pause
of
or
care
stop
for the
streaming.
earth. Permaculture revolves around 3 core ethics, one of which is the care for the earth. This ethic
I'm going to go ahead and pause it. If I were to let this run, then this entire course will be generated live, and I can listen to it live. I'm going to go ahead and stop. And if I were to let this course be generated, then it'll be under my view and launch generated courses. For example, I just created a course called Financial Basics for. Let's go ahead and launch. It's like this. I can actually switch to light mode as well, I believe. I'm sorry, dark mode. And then I can revisit this course. Both I can zoom in, both is in text, and
the importance of emergency funds.
yeah, it has 3 chapters, which I can easily use. The benefit of this and what you'll get out of it is that instead of chatting with in a disorganized manner, this allows you to create structured courses that you can run and listen to before you go to sleep, or just fill your time. When you have just 5 minutes or 10 minutes worth, you can visit these courses back whenever, anytime you like. So AutoStreamer, you can download a free demo for from autostreamer.live. I'll put the link in the description. Mac version is coming soon. You can, if you click on the download free demo, it will take you to my Google Drive download. And these are the files you'll be downloading. AutoStreamer demo.exe is the same thing as this, except with limited features. And if you wanted to download the full version, then clicking this will take you to my Patreon shop, where it's currently only for $200 instead of $300. You can read all about it in the website. You do need an OpenAI API key for this to work. And sometimes this is a PyInstaller package, the PyQt Python application, so your McAfee or Malwarebytes may flag it as not good, but as a matter of fact, all you have to do is just make an exception for the program. And if you have any questions, feel free to join our Discord or ask me the question that you have in Discord. Well, thank you for watching. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects as a patron. You will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well.